Welcome to the Property Podcast, where great minds in real estate get together.
It's a pleasure to be joined today by Glenn Sutherland, founder of a Canadian investor in the United States. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Thanks for having me.
Great. So I'd love to hear more about your role and your vision behind a Canadian investing in the United States.
Okay, well, see, the thing is, the Canadian investing in the U.S. is a whole bunch of different things, right? We syndicate deals, so we bring in other investors and we buy properties. We do like single family houses, we do fourplexes, we do 20plexes, and we also have a coaching program. So for the vision overall, it's about helping Canadians invest in the U.S. It has a lot of different facets and a lot of different corporations doing a lot of different things, but the overall theme is to be able to make it a lot more attainable to invest in the United States as a Canadian.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how did you get started in multifamily real estate investing?
Well, there's a lot of different ways to do this, right? And what I usually hear is that the proper way to do this is to hire a coach who's experienced in that, and then learn from them, learn the course, and then go ahead and start with yourself or partner with someone who's bigger. If it was like my story is a little bit different, I started off within the single family space, and I just grew and grew. And so what happened after a while was when you start managing your 100 houses, you start to realize that it would be a lot more efficient to own a 100 unit building than have 100 houses.
Mhm.
So that's where a lot of it came in for me. Just like everything I do when I'm doing real estate investing, I don't like to make mistakes, especially if I'm playing with anyone else's money. And so whenever I decided, I'm like, hey, you know what? I want to do bigger stuff. I hired a coach. So I think I spent 42 or $45,000 on a coach, and brought them in, and basically ran deals by them, worked with them just to make sure that I was, even though I believed I understood it, I think you should always have the perspective that you don't know everything and there is people who know more than you. And if it's a very dangerous mindset if you believe you know everything, because that's how you make a lot of mistakes. So even if I'm buying a single family house or I'm buying a 150 unit apartment building, I want to make sure that I'm not making mistakes. I want someone to review my numbers. As much as I trust myself, I don't trust myself, because you should always have a second set or a third set or a fourth set of eyes anytime you're doing anything.
I totally agree with you. So can you walk me through your best day and your worst day so far?
Oh, okay. Uh, I don't know. I think that the best days are when you close something. You've put a lot of work in. Like if you're doing this projects correctly, all the work, like at least a lot of the work goes in before you even buy the property, right? And so it's like, setting up contractors, getting contracts signed, negotiating how the draws are going to just there's a lot of calls beforehand. And when you actually get to the end and you close the property, that's actually probably the best day. um, you actually feel the sense of accomplishment from all the work that you've actually put in. Those are the best days. And as much as I was about to say it's like paydays, but the paydays are nice because it like supports, not having a job and all those things, but it doesn't have the same uh, feel. You don't have the same inner joy from as actually getting stuff done or actually seeing stuff right through to fruition. The worst day are always the days that something didn't go to plan. As much as I like to plan for things, and I do, like I said, I do believe in most of the planning is done beforehand. It's when typically somebody doesn't do what they say they're going to do. When somebody else drops the ball, like what I'd like to do with everything is try to have checks and balances. So if someone says they're going to be doing something, there's someone to check to make sure they do that. And even I make checks and balances for myself. Like I make checklists. So it's like instead of having on my checklist, like pay insurance, for instance, it would be, send the insurance money, right? Confirm they receive the money, right? Like just those extra steps, because sometimes a number got off on the wiring instructions or something, right? Anyway, there's just the follow up on everything. So the worst days are when stuff doesn't go to plan, or when somebody steals is the one thing that it also makes very tough days. Whenever there's theft of materials, a theft of whatever, vandalism to the property, it's the stuff that you as much as you tried to plan for, that you couldn't foresee that
Yeah.
that would happen. And it's real estate, right there. It's part of the game. It's hard to mitigate. You can set contingency funds for surprise items, but you can only anticipate as much as you can anticipate, and there's always going to be those days, all the time.
Totally understand. What about property manager stealing? Because it's a recurrent topic that I've been hearing over and over again.
So what I had that issue where I thought, I had a property manager in Kansas City, Missouri, and I no longer work with that company, but that was for different reasons. But I did believe that, like, the bills were getting out of control. Like, I was like, or repair bills. I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't. I'm finding it hard to believe. And I at that point I'd already started the process of working with a different property manager in the same city,
Mhm.
and just went in. I flew into Kansas City, and I didn't tell my property manager that I was doing so. And then I went and I was touring some other properties and looking at stuff, and we were buying a portfolio of a whole lot of properties. So it was, they weren't going to be involved, so I didn't bring them in. And whenever I got that email while I was in Kansas City that, hey, there's a whole laundry list of repairs that their tenant has requested, and basically you're not going to get paid your rent this month because it's all going to these repairs.
Mhm.
I was very suspicious, and I actually said, "Hey, can I go over to the property and check it out? Tell them, schedule them, and I'll be over sometime this afternoon, see what works for the tenant." And because this is a single family house, and
Mhm.
when I showed up there, those were actual things. Um, so for me, it's not been, from whenever I think about stealing from a property management perspective, I haven't been, like, stolen from it was blatantly not done. More that I've found that if I went and got a second opinion on the same renovation or same turnover or same things, that sometimes they're just overcharging so much.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's where it comes down to, um, you know, with everything, I like to collect lockbox codes so that I can have somebody else do those to just give me a second opinion on some of these things.
Mhm.
And a lot of times they're completely accurate, but you'll find that sometimes that it's almost feels like theft. Like, I was replacing siding on a house,
Yeah.
and the one quote was 14,000 and the other one was 25,000, and you go, well, where's the extra $10,000? Like,
Exactly.
there's some exaggeration here.
Yes.
So somebody's making some money. So with all of it, like I said earlier, you want to get 2 quotes or 3 quotes or 4 quotes, and you also want to have someone verify when stuff's done. If someone says they've completed something, whether it's a project manager, your property manager, somebody who's on your team, your realtor, the whoever it is, to verify these things. And that's
Mhm.
how you make it safe, because, like, I don't invest in the same cities I live, obviously, because I'm sitting here located in Canada right now, investing in the US. So you're going to have team members that trust to make sure that the theft is going to be minimized as much as possible.
That's a very good a strategy, really, to make sure that things are, like, under control. Mm,
Yeah.
that's very good. Thank you. So, in your view, what is a determining factor for a deal or non-deal breaker in real estate?
A deal breaker, and you're talking more of the multifamily. And what I know, we were looking at a property in San Antonio, and the numbers were awesome. Like, we were
Mhm.
looking, everything looked perfect. And we didn't actually end up closing on the property. We flew down there, we toured the property, and what for us, this is definitely not what you're looking for an answer. But
Mhm.
we went down there, and the owners of the company flew in from Florida into Texas to meet us, and they toured us around the property, and they kept us away from the property manager. They were on-site property management. They had 3 girls in the office, and they made sure that we weren't communicating with them. Like, they would, "Oh no, we can answer that question. Come with us." And then as we started, like, really drilling into the numbers, and we were comparing, like, the T12 to the accounting, and we started finding, like, we'll call them mistakes instead of being aggressive on saying that they were, intentional. But we were finding, stuff that didn't make sense. And for us, that was a deal breaker. Like that was like my partner's like, we've spent so much money. Like this is the hardest part is when you've spent money, you've hired contractors, done inspections, you've started due diligence, you've made flights to these properties, right? And this was, I think, a 200 unit building. So there was a significant expenses involved in it. And to walk away, I'm like, something in my gut is telling me that this is going to be a mistake. If we're finding things that are misleading us, what else haven't we found? Right. And how many people do I have to hire to make sure? But I think for me, that's red flags is if I feel dishonest from the seller, it's gonna have to be a screaming deal with tons of space for being misled, and that's honestly it's still probably a game changer that I wouldn't do it because if you're playing with someone else's money, you need to be as sure as possible, not just, "I'm gonna keep extra money for because I think there's something else here." You need to be sure about what you're doing, and, anytime that I feel dishonesty from the seller, it's a deal breaker for me.
Mm, I agree with you. Alrighty. So, what major shifts are you seeing in the multifamily industry right now?
Well, I think that it's just been depending on how far back we're going. But I think that just because there's higher interest rates, there's opportunities to make a win-win with sellers that are looking to sell these properties right now. So if you would have looked at after COVID, maybe like 3-4 years ago, the interest rates are much lower, and you make a lot of your money between the cap rate and the interest rate. Is where you can make your profit in there. And whenever the interest rates are much higher, it makes it a lot more difficult to do these. And there's a lot of people who didn't do conservative enough underwriting,
Mhm.
meaning that they would say, "Hey, look, we're going to refinance this property based on today's terms," but they're talking like 3, 4, or 5 years ago. And then whenever they go to refinance now, it just doesn't work, right? Their numbers were too tight, and as crazy as it sounds, it's one of those things that I did learn a lot from doing single family to put like if you say, hey, what can you apply from doing single family into the multifamily? It's about buying it right. And if you buy it and you have a steep enough discount and there's a lot of space in there, then you'll be okay in these situations. But what happened was a lot of people did like short-term financing on these properties and they were forced to hey, we're going to do a burr, we're going to do a heavy renovation, we're going to refinance, and then we're going to be good. And then on the back end, if they didn't buy a rate cap, that refinance rate is much higher than what they anticipated, and they just can't even do it. But when you buy a single family home, you're looking to buy at, you know, be able to do perfect bursts. That's what I'm looking for. So purchase, reno, and the refinance difference. So if you're planning on to refinance at a 70% loan to value, you need to be buying purchase plus reno 70% of the after repair value. And so if you start applying that into multifamily, which a lot of people don't, they look at what the cap rate is for that area and what the net operating is, and they figure out the value of the property. And they usually are offering around what the property is actually worth based on how it's performing. That's not how I buy multifamily because I've just been so drilled that I need significant discounts so that I can do the refinances so I can have, space if I'm going to do a flip, right? To make my
Mhm.
money. And because of that, it makes things work.
Great. So, what role does technology play in attracting and retaining the right tenants?
I do have a lot of interest in AI, and I have a lot of interest in creating a building that completely runs on AI, meaning that there isn't a property management. There is a portal that they can go in, they can make their complaints, they can talk to a chat bot, they can make phone calls in and talk to AI, and AI can accept the information, make calls on the information, whether it's like calling a plumber, just calling a handyman. And sometimes off the start, it's about training the AI in order to understand that, because otherwise they'll hear, oh, a leaky faucet, plumber. And you're like, well, that probably a handyman could have fixed for much cheaper, right? So some
Yes.
of that is about building. But honestly, AI I'm trying to put it into everything, right? So, like I said, we're trying to do a one building in full, but even having as much automation as possible because I have virtual assistants.
Hmm.
And what you find is you have to make a playbook about how a virtual assistant does everything, right? Each step. And as you basically step out everything that you do and you break it down into checklists and an order and a process, and as soon as you start thinking about that, that's all you have to do to train the AI. And so you can start taking all those processes you built and having them, even a non human person, do many of these tasks because a lot of them are repetitive, a lot of them are simple. And every time you sit down and like I like to do twice a year, a time audit where I sit down and write what I'm doing. And you realize what you're doing, and you realize that there is stuff that first of all, I used to do this. So I'd be like, I shouldn't be doing this. This is like something where I'm just copying something, moving something, entering stuff into the bookkeeping. This is something that the VA can do.
Hmm.
But the new process is okay, the VA can do with this, but could AI do this as well? And almost for everything. And even as I'll say, oh, they almost can do this, or they're really close to doing this. And you just wait a week, or you go to some forums, and you'll find that there is a way for them to do it. And
Hmm.
you slowly pull your whole business at least away from it so that you're doing the stuff that involves face to face, like talking interviews. And it's not about doing service calls, like not that kind of face to face. It's
Hmm.
about, building your brand and actually running the business instead of the business running you. And instead of you working in it, you're about promoting the business.
Okay, that is great. So finally, what is your company long strategy? Let's say 5 years from now.
Well, with all of it, I'd like to be creating a business that's more AI running this, and even the VAs giving them more responsibility as they are in the company longer to be able to just make decisions on their own so that it doesn't involve me. Like if I'm picturing my day, I picture like, waking up and going to have a coffee or even like grabbing my wife, going for it to a coffee shop, relaxing, talking some probably a little bit of business. And like that's what I picture that it's me just making decisions, but these are the rules and the VA can just follow the rules. And it because of it following rules, instead of me making a decision based on gut, how I feel, they just take all of that out.
Hmm.
Um, it sounds so cold as you say it, though. When you think about building a business, you want to have the freedom. You don't want to be making these decisions all the time,
Yeah.
and so that's really the future is AI, virtual assistants, and carving more and more stuff off of my plates that other people can handle for me or other AIs can handle for me.
Yes, I totally agree with you on this one too, because AI, the future, and we are right in the way as we speak.
Oh, I completely agree, and I'm
Yeah.
always learning more.
Yes. Exactly. Thank you so much.